together. And did you increase the volume there? Did you increase the volume there? Make it a little bit less. There's some echo. Hare Krishna. Make it less, please. More, less. Hare Krishna. All right. Great. Thanks. So I will recite it a couple of times, and then if devotees want, they can also recite. Okay? And then we will discuss, read and discuss the verse. For benefit of those on Zoom recording, I will share it as well. To do that, you'll need to be Arjuna Uvacha. You can repeat after me. Arjuna Uvacha. Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Param Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishaya Sarve Devarshir Naradas Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishi Me. Once more. Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishi Me. Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Devarshir Naradas Tatha. Did I make a mistake? Oh, Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishi Me. Would anybody like to repeat? Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishi Me. Any Matajis? Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. Thank you. Anyone else? Arjuna Uvacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. Thanks. All right. Anybody else? Okay. So this verse is the first verse spoken by Arjuna after the conclusion of Lord Shri Krishna of the Bhakti Yoga, the core Bhakti Yoga section, which started in chapter 7 and ended with the Chatur Shloki of Bhagavad Gita 10.8, 9, 10 and 11, which are very, very important, very famous and very heavily spoken on verses. However, in these verses, Arjuna is confirming certain facts. So even for those who do not know the essence of the Bhakti Yoga section, I see some new people here. Arjuna is repeating the essence of the Chatur Shloka in these verses. So you will not miss anything. There is no prerequisite required for today's class. All right? But for those who are, many of you I see are heavily studied in Bhagavad Gita, and for them also, there are some very sweet and very nice realizations that I heard from very senior devotees, and today's class primarily is coming from my listenings and readings from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. All glories to him. Very nice inspiration he provided to me to select this topic and speak about it, so all thanks to him. And of course, Srila Prabhupada, who is the inspiration for all of us. So there are some very sweet realizations to be that I got from these verses as well. So before we go into it, let us see the Anvaya, or the breakdown of the word by word. Param Brahma, Param Dhama. So after listening to the Bhakti Yoga section, which is the core essence of Bhagavad Gita, and don't worry if you don't know what is that core essence, because Arjuna is going to repeat that. So here is the point that Chaitanya Charan Prabhu makes. So I'll mention the main sort of realization that I understood from him in the beginning itself now. Arjuna is playing two roles here in the Bhagavad Gita. The first role is that of a very attentive student. That is very clear. That is very well known. Because Arjuna asked those questions in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, not really questions, but expressed his doubts or expressed his weakness that I cannot fight. Do you know that? That why Bhagavad Gita was spoken? Yeah. Arjuna said, I have all my friends, my respected uncles and grandfathers and teachers on the other side. How can I fight against them? And I don't want to fight. So that was the point where Bhagavad Gita starts. And Lord Krishna is, or Arjun is becoming the medium for Lord Krishna to speak this supreme knowledge to all of us. Because he expressed those doubts, his weakness, Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And of course it was arranged by the Lord so that we all can get the benefit of Bhagavad Gita. So, Lord Krishna then is giving the Bhagavad Gita, or has given the essence of Bhagavad Gita just before Arjun spoke these verses which we recited. Param Brahma, Param Dhama. And as part of, so that is first role that Arjuna is playing, of a student. A teacher can manifest himself when a student is present. Teacher cannot speak to an empty class. There has to be at least one sincere student, and Arjuna very nicely fulfilled the role of a very attentive and sincere student. Here comes the important point. The second role that Arjuna plays is to confirm Lord Krishna's teachings. Okay? So Lord Krishna, even though he is describing Bhagavad Gita in a very simple way, at least that's how I feel, that it could have been way more complicated if you read some things like the Vedanta Sutras and all, in like 2 words, like, a whole essay is compressed into 2 words. And you have to like break your head against the wall to understand how those 2 words could mean so much. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is explaining in very straightforward terms. He's not twisting, he's not compressing, he's not compacting, he's not encrypting, codifying, none of those things. Very straightforward. But still, Arjuna is repeating back the essence to Lord Krishna. Are you following? And it gives the chance to Lord Krishna to correct if Arjun got it wrong. Okay, so it is not just Lord Krishna speaking. And the reason is because Lord Krishna knows that there will be many, many people in the future who will misinterpret Krishna's words. And that happens. We have seen all of, that is why Srila Prabhupada was more or less inspired or forced, so to say, forced as in forced by himself, to write the word as it is below the Bhagavad Gita. As it is means as the author of Bhagavad Gita intended. Who is the author of Bhagavad Gita? Shri Krishna. As Krishna intended, that is how Bhagavad Gita is being presented. Not in some twisted way with some mirch masala, some, of your own interpretations added on top of it. And that is what Arjuna is doing in these later verses of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is confirming that understanding, that this is the understanding. And Lord Krishna, you will see, he says, yes, absolutely, that is the understanding. And that also is the role at the end that Sanjay is playing. Even though Sanjay is only one-way transmission, like a radio, it's not like a Zoom call. Or radio, probably none of you understand, even I have forgotten. Let's say YouTube. You cannot, the difference between YouTube and Zoom is, in Zoom you can unmute and ask questions back. YouTube, it's only one way, right? You cannot communicate. I mean, of course, you can give comments and whatnot. That's a separate matter, right? So Sanjay was receiving a one-way transmission. So yes, Sanjay is also acting or playing the role of repeating the message, what he has heard. But Arjuna's role is way more significant because he has a chance of being corrected by Lord Krishna. And we see that at 2 places in Bhagavad Gita. In the first instance, where Arjuna expresses his weakness, Lord Krishna doesn't agree, yes, you are in the mode of goodness. You're such a nice person, you don't want to fight. What will you do with all this kingdom? Anyway, it is temporary, it's all material. Let's go. You are right, we'll go. And he could have withdrawn from the battle. So Lord Krishna prevented that. That was not such a bad choice. Lord Krishna could have agreed to Arjuna, but he said no. What the heck is wrong with you? And he, in fact, in a very mocking way, he says, have you become a transgender or something, he says. That because Arjuna had played a role of a transgender when he was in the Agyatavas. He says, that time you were acting. Have you like really become like that? By acting, sometimes you just become like it too much, it becomes a habit. So he very strongly mocked Arjuna. So Lord Krishna is not going to hesitate to, and the second instance where he corrects Arjuna, not corrects, but at the end of 6th chapter, when Arjuna says that this system of yoga that you have described is too complicated. I cannot control my mind. Then Lord Krishna says you can control your mind through Vairagya, Abhyasa and Vairagya. Thank you. And still Arjuna says, no, it is still not possible. Lord Krishna does not give up. Lord Krishna persists. He says, okay, whatever little you can do in this life, you do, and you can continue from where you left off in the next life. And then he starts speaking the Bhakti Yoga section. So my point is, Lord Krishna would have not hesitated to correct or stop Arjuna if he got it wrong. So because Lord Krishna's words are open to so much misinterpretation over the thousands of years, and that has happened, Arjuna's words offer a very clear reconfirmation of Lord Krishna's message. And in these verses that we recited, that exact same message, which is in the as it is, the essence, the correct message of Bhagavad Gita, is being repeated by Arjuna. And upon understanding that message, what should you do? That is also going to be covered by Arjuna. What is his understanding? So what is the message? How you should accept it? And what should you do? Like how should you act on that message? Because message is just like words. The doctor can tell you, you should exercise, you should do this, you should do that. If you don't act on it, then, the doctor can keep speaking as long as, cows come home. You are not going to get cured. You have to act on the doctor's instructions, only then it will be helpful. So how to act on Lord Krishna's message? All that is going to be explained by Arjuna in these few verses. So the translation or the essence of the message is being described by Arjuna. Essence is what? First essence is that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Who is he? Param Brahma, Param Dhama. That is the verse we read. So we are reading for those who have just arrived, chapter 10, verse number 12 and 13. Arjuna Uvacha, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Bhavan means you are. Bhava means are, you are. So Arjuna is saying to Lord Krishna who he is. He is Shri Shrinitai Satchidanand Dev Bhagwan ki Jai. He is Param Brahma. He is the supreme truth. Param Dhama, the supreme abode. The destination that everybody should strive for. Pavitram Paramam. He is the supreme Pavitra, the supreme pureness or the supreme purity is in Lord Krishna. Purusham, he is a person. So Bhagwan is not some light or some energy, that is the impersonal understanding that he is clarifying. Shashvatam, he is eternal. So Bhagwan was, I get this question too many times, but Bhagwan, or they don't even use the word Bhagwan, even though everywhere in Bhagavad Gita is said Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Krishna was killed by that hunter with the arrow. So, Krishna was killed by some small hunter. Now, you have to read Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't have time to go through that. Lord Krishna was not killed by a hunter. If he had to be killed, he was sitting right in front of the chariot of Arjuna. And all the arrows of Bhishma were he was like a magnet in front of the chariot. So all the arrows that were coming, they would get, into Krishna. They would not even go till Arjuna. That is how Arjuna was protected from all the attacks of all the such great warriors. If Krishna could have been killed by an arrow of a hunter, he would have been dead long back by the first arrow of Bhishma Pitamaha. So that does not enter the people's head. So they make all these statements that Krishna died as in he is ashashvata. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam means non-permanent. So Krishna is shashvat, means he is eternal, he is permanent. He is divyam, he is transcendental, he is not material. Purusham shashvatam divyam. Adi devam. Adi devam means he is the original deva, from whom all the other devatas emerge. That also will come in one of the later verses, which we won't have time to go into. Deva Devan, there is a term that he is the origin of all the devas. Here also it is mentioned, Adi Devam, Ajam, unborn. So neither does he have death, Shashvatam, nor does he have birth, Ajam, unborn, Vibhum, and he is the greatest. So this is who Krishna is. And this is what has been described by Lord Krishna in many of the previous verses as well, by which Lord Krishna spoke. So if there was any inaccuracy in these statements of Arjuna, Lord Krishna would have pointed out. At least we have the same statement from two persons, Krishna and Arjuna. So those who may want to say that Bhagavad Gita actually means something else, they have to contradict two persons, not one. They have to contradict Krishna and they have to contradict Arjuna. And they have to justify the fact that why Krishna did not correct Arjuna. Not only why he did not correct Arjuna, he says later, I agree. You are right. And then it's not just two. Now it becomes from 1 to 2 to 6. 4 more are going to be added. So there is a lot of deep meaning behind these verses. These are not just poetry. Every verse has a deeper meaning. So, in the next verse that we read, number 13, it says, Ahus tvam rishaya sarve. That all these sages, Rishaya means all these great sages, and we will see 4 specific names, and you cannot deny that these are not great sages. All these sages say about you, Tvam, what do they say? Or they say the same thing. Which sages say? Devarshi Narada, first of all. Narad Muni. Then 3 more. Asita, Devala, Vyasa. These are all very, very, very renowned and famous sages. Those who would want to misinterpret Bhagavad Gita take the words of these same sages and they try to twist and turn. So that the names of those sages have been put. If Krishna wanted to say something, he would have said, yes, Narad has said so, but no, don't include Vyas in that category, or don't include Asita in that category. He has said something, misinterpretation. No, Lord Krishna does not object to any of these points. Swayam Chaiva Bravishime, that same thing which these 4 sages have said in different Shastras, now you are saying to me. So which means that this Shastra that you have spoken to me, this science of Krishna consciousness of Bhakti Yoga, has been confirmed by these sages as well. So whoever wants to misinterpret the Bhagavad Gita now not only has to justify why Arjuna is saying like this, but why Vyasa, Asita, Devala and Narada are saying what they are saying. So the barrier for justification to say that Lord Krishna's message has some other meaning other than given by Srila Prabhupada and by our acharyas in Bhagavad Gita commentaries is different, the barrier is very high. But still, that doesn't stop people from misinterpreting, but intelligent people like you and me should question that. What happens is that we just take it on, oh, they're saying something, because we don't know better, we just follow. Okay, theek hi hoga. Must be true. This person is sitting on this big chair, official temple, official building, he is sitting, must be speaking the truth. But that is not the case. We see in our life, so many people sit on big pulpits, on big thrones, and speak all kinds of nonsense, which leads to mass killings, mass destructions, because they have access to a big chair. So having access to a big chair doesn't make you right. You have to use your own intelligence, try to apply the intelligence to see what is written in the Bhagavad Gita, and try to match. That is the interpretation matching the source. If I am saying 2 plus 2 is 5, you can say, okay, 2 plus 2 is 5. But if you start counting, wait, 2, 1 finger, 2 finger, okay, plus 2, third finger, fourth finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, where is? You have to apply your intelligence. You can't just go with the flow. And if you apply your own intelligence and question, then you will come to this understanding which Arjuna has come, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, and Narada have come to that same understanding. So that is the way to understand the Bhagavad Gita. So let us see. So Srila Prabhupada has written a very wonderful purport, and I want to read just some portions of it. It's a long purport. He starts off by saying, in these two verses, the Supreme Lord gives a chance to the Mayavadi philosopher. For here it is clear that the Supreme is different from the individual soul. Arjuna, after hearing the essential 4 verses of Bhagavad Gita in this chapter, became completely free from all doubts and accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He at once boldly declares, you are Param Brahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Srila Prabhupada is giving a direct challenge to the Mayavadi philosophers. Come and try to justify this statement. And it is very difficult to justify that Arjuna is separate from Krishna, and Krishna is the Param Brahman, and he is the little Brahman. The soul of the Jiva and Param Brahma, the Paramatma and the Jivatma, the difference is in quantity. There is similarity of quality, but difference in quantity. And they are two separate, they are not one. Prabhupada is giving that direct challenge to the Mayavadi philosophers. 2 paragraphs down, it's a very beautiful paragraph in the purport. In the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is accepted as the purest of the pure. One who understands that Krishna is the purest of the pure can become purified from all sinful activities. One cannot be disinfected from the sinful activities unless he surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Now here comes the important part. Arjuna's acceptance of Krishna as the supreme pure complies with the injunctions of the Vedic literature. This is also confirmed by the great personalities of whom Narada is chief. So, in the 14th verse, so we read 12 and 13. So in your Bhagavad Gita, if you go to the 14th verse, I will just read the translation, not the Sanskrit, in interest of time. Arjuna says, O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. So acceptance of Krishna's message, as it is message, not adding your own mirch masala to it. You have to add your intelligence to it. Of course, I'm not saying keep your intelligence on the shelf and blindly follow. No. But using that intelligence, you have to, in corporate terms, those who are working in software or maybe even other places, there is this term called intellectual honesty. Have you heard that term? Intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty means be honest. To promote your own projects, pet projects and this and that, people, twist and turn. Oh, because resources are limited. To promote my project, I have to pull down the other guy's project because the number of engineers are the same. So either these engineers can do his project, in which case he will become a vice president or get a promotion, and I will not. So let me get his project killed. So then my project will get a chance, then I will be the famous person. All this happens in corporate culture. And therefore, called intellectual honesty. If you want to kill that project, the other guy's project, at least do it with honesty. Make genuine points. If there is a genuine flaw in that project, fine. Nobody should stop you from speaking the truth. So you have to apply your intelligence, but honestly. Not dishonesty, not duplicity, not cheating. Okay? So you have to apply your intelligence to understand Krishna's words, but if after applying the intelligence, when you see what is meant, then you accept it. If his project is really better, accept it. Why you have to be a cheater to get his project killed by telling lies, just to get name, fame, and popularity? That's wrong. So therefore, Arjuna is saying, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. He has applied intelligence. You cannot say that he did not apply intelligence. He has asked so many questions. In fact, at the end of the second chapter, Arjuna asks a question, which is the beginning of chapter 3. That, what should I do? Should I apply detachment, which Lord Krishna spoke in chapter 2? Or should I work with as my duty, which also Lord Krishna spoke in chapter 2? So duty versus detachment. Then in chapter 3, Lord Krishna talks about doing your duty with detachment, both. Somehow, Arjuna still doesn't get it, and at the end of, or at the beginning of 5th chapter, he asks almost a very similar question. This shows that Arjuna is not just blindly accepting. He is questioning, and he is not afraid to question the same question if the answer is not clear. Makes Arjuna a intellectually honest student. But once he has accepted, then he moves on. Then he accepts. So here Arjuna is saying, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. And that is how we should accept Bhagavad Gita. If Bhagavad Gita makes sense to you, then you have to accept it. Not for any personal pride, prejudice, or to prove some point. Or maybe you have gone too far down into a particular misinterpretation, now you can't walk back. Oh, I'm too invested in it. That is what Ravana finally tells Kumbhakarna. That, oh, I am now too invested into this war. Even Kumbhakarna tells, are you a fool? This is the Supreme Lord. But he says, now I have lost my son Indrajit, I have, so much I have lost, now I have to just see it to the finish. Even I am ready to die, but I can't walk back. So sometimes one is, but still, that's the wrong understanding. Ravana's understanding is not correct. It's never too late to accept your mistake and get on the right path. Never too late. This understanding, oh, I am too far down the wrong path. Please tell me, if you are the one being wronged, if you are the one in Ravana's position, fine. It's very hard to understand, yes. I'm too far down the wrong path, I have to now just see it to the finish. But if you are the one being wronged, would you accept other person's explanation? That no, I'm too far down the line of hurting you, so I will continue to hurt you. Will you accept that explanation? You say, at least when you came to know that you are wrong, you should have stopped, isn't it? It's never too late. So for whatever reason, people may misinterpret the Bhagavad Gita, But once after applying your intelligence, you understand the correct understanding, you must accept. So that is the second step. First step is to get the right understanding by using your intelligence. All right? And the correct understanding is that Krishna is Param Brahma, Param Dhama, and he is the Supreme Lord. He's unborn, he is Shashvata, eternal, he is Ajam, he is unborn, he is the Lord of everything. So that is the first understanding, that's the understanding. The next step is acceptance, like Arjuna is showing. And then the third step is application. So if you go further down in the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 17. What does Arjuna say there in verse number 17? In verse 17, Arjuna says that, again, I will just stick with the English for sake of time. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you? Because in the core message of the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna is asking the bhaktas to do, what is it? Mad chittah mad gatah prana. I am using the same words as in the Chatur Shloki, which have just concluded before this section. Mad chittah means keeping always me, mad, in your chitta. What is chitta? Mind. So what is Krishna? Who is Krishna, or who or what is Krishna asking to fill your mind with? Thoughts of Krishna. So that is what Krishna has just said. Mad chitta, mad gata prana. Make me your gata, your destination. That's why Arjuna is saying Param Dhama. You are the supreme destination. Because Lord Krishna says, Mad gata prana. Your life and soul should be to come to me. Mad gata. Gata means to go. So your whole focus of your life should be to come back to me. Mad gata prana. So Arjuna is asking, how should I do that practically? So he is now ready to apply. Like the doctor has written, okay, you need chemotherapy. So the patient asks, okay, please tell me, give me the appointments. Which hospital should I go to? How many times I have to go? Every week, 2 times, 1 time, whatever. The whole, the whole practical aspect. He's ready to commit to the process. So Arjuna is asking, how shall I constantly think of you, and how shall I know you? In the various forms are you to be remembered, in what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? So he's asking that question. And then the rest of chapter 10 is Lord Krishna describing how one should understand or how one should remember Krishna in this world. Whenever we see anything wonderful, anything beautiful, how we can remember that yes, it is coming from Krishna, how we can generate remembrance of Krishna while we are engaging in the material world. Krishna is not asking us to quit the material world. While we are engaged in the material world, do that, remain engaged, and remember Krishna. Mam anusmara yuddha cha. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, do your duty, and right now your duty is to establish dharma by defeating the bad guys, the evil guys. So establish dharma, go and finish off. I am the protector of dharma, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna. Dharma comes from me, he says. And I have decreed, I have ruled that these people should die. Do you want to become the executioner of my order? The instrument, he says. Nimitta matra bhava savyasachi in 11.33. So are you willing to do that? And Arjuna says, yes, absolutely. Karishye vachanam tava. Whatever you say, I am willing to do. Now my moho nashtaha, all my illusion has been destroyed. I am ready to do Karishye vachanam tava. So that is the commitment to action. And he is asking how to, or what are some of the details of the process of committing to the instructions of Lord Krishna. So, it is 11:20. I will summarize and we'll see if there are any discussions or questions. So, what we started off with is this discussion about the essence of Lord Krishna's instructions. But instead of choosing Lord Krishna's words today, in today's class, I chose Arjuna's words. The instruction is the same. Lord Krishna is, so to say, the doctor, Arjuna is the patient, whatever. He is going to Krishna for advice. Shishyaste aham shadhi mam tvam prapannam. He says, I am the Shishya now. You please tell me. Shishyaste mam. I am the Shishya. So he accepts the position of a student or a patient, so to say, in a doctor-patient relationship. So, the doctor gives him the instructions. From the patient side, he says, okay, this is what you have told me. This is my diagnosis. So he repeats back. The doctor could have corrected him if he got it wrong. So since there are many people out there who misinterpret Krishna's words, Lord Krishna is endorsing Arjuna's understanding and raising the bar of the correct understanding. That is the point we first established in today's class. Are you following the logic? Then the second point, from the listener or the student or the patient's perspective, is the acceptance of the diagnosis or acceptance of the instruction. While the teacher is telling you, or while the doctor is talking to you, in your mind, if you are thinking, not making sense. Let me get done with this appointment, I'm never coming back here again. Sometimes that happens, right? When you go to the doctor and he tells you some nonsense and you just like, okay, once I'm here, I just don't want to be rude. Let me get over with it and I'm out of here. Arjuna doesn't do that either. And how is that shown? First of all, he says that I accept, and then he is going to the next step of commitment to action. Okay, please tell me the details. So that is what we covered in today's class, the essence of Krishna conscious philosophy, that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. If it makes sense according to our intelligence, then we should accept it. If it doesn't make sense, fine, go. Eat, drink, and be merry wherever you are. Be happy. But if it makes sense, accept it, and then act on it. Bhagavad Gita is all about action. It is not armchair philosophy. Srila Prabhupada says that probably 100 times or more in his lectures and in his purports. This is not armchair philosophy where you can sit down and just think. It's about action. Lord Krishna is also not wasting his time with Arjuna. At the end of it, Lord Krishna expects action. And a pretty, massive or pretty serious action on Arjuna's part. A huge armies are assembled and a lot of action is going to take place. It's like we say, action-packed. So if you want action, then this action that happened in Mahabharata is way more action than James Bond or Tom Cruise or Amitabh Bachchan or whatever we call action. There was more action here than all other places put together. So there is a call to action. So Bhagavad Gita leads to action. So that is what we should use Bhagavad Gita for in our lives. Understand, accept, act. So if you have taken away anything from today's class, you should take away, understand with your intelligence, not with blind faith, accept, act. UAA, understand, accept, act. Okay? So thank you so much for tolerating me. Are there any comments, reflections, questions, or corrections? Anyone? Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for blessing us today. So nice to see you after a long time. We have very, very wonderful fortune of having the blessings of Manasa Ganga Mataji and Vedavati Mataji, who are direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Please forgive me for any mistakes I've made. But please go ahead.
What I am noticing is we think that our intelligence will lead us to the correct decisions. But what we have to keep in mind is that our mind can trick our intelligence into going for the glowing, shiny objects instead of what is profound and real about Krishna. So to win over the intelligence, to understand and to accept and to act is most difficult, but also that's the goal.
Absolutely right, Mataji. And I sense a little question there in what you said, that the intelligence slash mind, though they are not the same, they are very different entities. Mana and Buddhi are two different entities, could trick us. The difference between the mind and the intelligence Shri Shri Rai Sachinanand Dev Bhagwan ki jai. The difference between the two is that the mind is habituated. It is something, it's a beast or an animal. The mind is often equated to an elephant. And we have discussed this in previous classes, how an elephant can be trained. Initially, the elephant is very unruly, but if trained, it can, clear a big forest for you. It can break trees, it can lift logs, it can do a lot of heavy work. So mind has developed certain habits. If they are good habits, so mind is not always an enemy. Lord Krishna says it could be the best friend. But if it has developed bad habits, then sooner or later we will suffer. And that suffering, nobody, no living entity, no intelligence, no mind can make one feel that, oh, this suffering is there, but I'm enjoying it. When suffering comes, then you want to get rid of it. That's why Lord Krishna says 4 types of people come to me. Artha, Artharthi. Artha is the one who wants to get rid of some kind of suffering. So, when the mind, due to mind's bad habits, when suffering comes, then some people turn to God and some people turn to their intelligence. Aha, ouch, that hurt. Why the heck did I do that? Oh, let me think and see how to make sure this doesn't happen again. Does that happen? The mind causes us to fall into a ditch. And then we might resort to our intelligence to analyze. And that is when, if that hurt, if that suffering is good enough to bring us out of our bad habits or our illusion, then one can question, I read this in Bhagavad Gita, some idiot-looking person with a shaved head, with some white or brown or orange clothes, which I considered to be an idiot, good-for-nothing guy, was telling me this. Let me try that out. Let me see if that makes sense. Then that intelligence could help that person come out of that suffering. Ultimately, when suffering hits, that is when intelligence gets invoked. So, yes, Mataji, till that happens, Lord Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Aprita Chetasam. That one who is too much in Bhoga Ishwarya, Samadhav na vidhiyate. His attachment to spiritual direction does not take place. So if those who are eating, drinking, and being merry in this life and are perfectly happy come closer to Krishna, it is harder to come to but using intelligence, one can really distinguish what is in one's benefit and what is not. So thank you for asking that question. And we will stop here and we will participate in Arati. Shri Nitai Satchidanand Dev Bhagwan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Recording stopped. Okay. Where should I put it? It's fine. I'll keep it. You're ready, right? Where to start? Okay. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nitai Sachinandana, Nitai Sachinandana, Nitai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari. Jaya Nitai सचिनंदन निताय सचिनंदन निताय सचिनंदन गौर हरि जय प्रभुपद 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 जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेवा निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र से श्री से ऐसी भक्तिवेदांता स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन एंड बीबीडी फाउंडर आचार्य शिल प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र से श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय श्री नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथपुरी क्षेत्र धाम की जय गंगा मैया यमुना मैया की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि 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 बोल All glories to the Assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Would like to chant the Nursing of their prayers, please. Dave, can you come forward? This book? You want to take off your mask?
Should I start?
I think so.
Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Praladadayine Praladadayine Hiranyakashipurvaksha Shiladankhanakhalaye Ito Narasimha Para
श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देव भगवान की, भक्त श्री प्रार्थना राज की, श्री प्रभुपाद की, गुरुदेव की, अनंत कोटि विष्णु वृंद की, श्रम संकीर्तन की।
Bhakti Nitya ki jai. Very nice, Nitya. It takes some amount of courage to chant in front of many devotees, so